Nobody is coming to save you. Let those 6 words settle heavily into the deepest, coldest corners of your mind. Strip away the comforting illusions, the polite societal lies, the gentle reassurances of self-help frameworks, and the fairy tales you tell yourself to fall asleep at night. Look closely at your life right now, at the quiet corners of your room, at the screen in your hand, and at the reflection staring back at you in the mirror when the world goes completely silent. The fundamental truth of human existence is absolute and unyielding. No one is going to appear out of thin air to fix your life for you. There is no hidden savior riding toward the horizon. There is no long-lost mentor tracking you down to magically unlock your latent potential. There is no perfect friend who will carry your heavy burdens. No family member who can do the agonizing lifting of your personal growth. No stroke of blind luck that will suddenly organize your chaotic reality into a masterwork. And no magical morning waiting for you in the future where you will suddenly wake up bursting with permanent, effortless motivation. Opportunities do not knock on the doors of those who do not build houses, and the universe does not keep a ledger of your unfulfilled good intentions. If your life is going to change, it will happen solely because you made a conscious, definitive, and painful decision to stop waiting, stop complaining, and stand up on your own feet. The external world is completely indifferent to your complaints, your excuses, your heartbreaks, and your potential. It does not care that you had a rough start, that people let you down, or that the system feels completely rigged against you. The only currency that carries any weight in objective reality is deliberate action. Until you accept total, absolute, and uncompromised ownership of your current state, regardless of who caused it, you will remain a permanent prisoner of your circumstances. Stop looking at the door, hoping someone will walk through it to rescue you. Turn around, look at your own hands, and realize they are the only tools you have to carve your path out of the dark. You are waiting far too much, paralyzing your own potential under the guise of preparation. You have turned waiting into a highly sophisticated psychological defense mechanism designed to protect you from the terrifying possibility of failure, judgment, and effort. Look at your daily internal monologue. Analyze the excuses you generate without a second thought. You tell yourself that you are just waiting for the right wave of motivation to strike, that you need to build up your confidence first before you launch that project, speak up, or change your toxic habits. You claim you are waiting for the perfect timing, for the financial market to stabilize, for your schedule to clear up, for people to finally believe in your vision, or for the world to become a slightly fairer place. Let us dismantle that delusion right now. While you are sitting there hovering in a state of perpetual hesitation, time is relentlessly moving forward. Time does not pause out of respect for your emotional readiness, nor does it care that you feel tired, insecure, or unprepared. Seconds, minutes, days, and years are evaporating, and once they are gone, they are permanently expunged from your life's ledger. While you are waiting, what is the rest of the world doing? Your competitors are not waiting. The people who will eventually take the career opportunities you want, earn the financial freedom you desire, and build the relationships you long for are out there right now. They are practicing when they do not feel like it, studying complex skills when their brains ache, waking up early, working through intense boredom, and forcing themselves through the daily meat grinder of execution. They are not inherently smarter or more talented than you. They have simply realized that waiting is a slow, comfortable form of suicide. When you choose to wait, you are not standing still. In a moving world, standing still means you are rapidly falling behind. Every hour spent waiting is an hour you actively hand over to someone else who is willing to tolerate the discomfort of immediate action. Waiting is an active betrayal of your future self. One of the greatest lies you tell yourself to maintain your comfort is the myth of the neutral day. You think to yourself that today you did not really do anything productive, but at least you did not slide backward, convincing yourself that you just rested and can start completely fresh tomorrow. This is a profound misunderstanding of how human psychology, habit loops, and neurobiology operate. There is no such thing as a neutral day, and there is no pause button on your character development. Every single sunrise brings a clean slate of 24 hours, and every choice you make within those hours is an active investment. You are either actively building a stronger, more resilient, more capable version of yourself, or you are actively feeding, watering, and strengthening a weaker, lazier, more undisciplined version of yourself. Think of your life as a continuous, high-stakes election where every single action you take, no matter how small, is a physical vote for the type of person you want to become. When you hit the snooze button 3 times in the morning, you are voting for a soft, unreliable version of yourself. When you choose to scroll through social media for 2 hours instead of reading or working on your craft, you are voting for a distracted, easily manipulated version of yourself. When you eat processed trash because it tastes good for 5 minutes, you are voting for a sluggish, short-sighted version of yourself. A wasted day is never just an isolated, harmless event. It is a brick laid in the foundation of a mediocre life, reinforcing your old, destructive patterns and deepening the grooves of your bad habits in your brain. You are never standing still. You are either ascending the mountain with immense effort or smoothly sliding down the slope of decay. Stop treating your days as if they are disposable, for they are the raw material of your destiny. Let us call it what it is. You want the prize, but you despise the price. You want the glorious transformation, but you want it delivered via a miracle rather than earned through accountability. Look around at the sheer volume of people who claim they desperately want to change their lives, who buy self-help books, listen to podcasts, make elaborate resolutions, and talk endlessly about their grand ambitions. Yet, the moment they are asked to sacrifice their immediate comfort, the entire facade collapses. They want wealth, but they refuse the grueling, unsexy hours of late-night study and financial discipline. They want a powerful, healthy physique, but they refuse to experience the physical strain of the gym and the monotony of clean eating. They want deep self-confidence, but they do not want to go through the painful, risky experiences required to prove their worth to themselves. The defining characteristic of mediocrity is the desire for a new future while fiercely defending old, comfortable habits. It is a mathematical impossibility. If your daily actions do not alter, your life's outcomes will remain perfectly stagnant. You cannot carry the heavy habits of your past into the reality of your future. Stop praying for an easy life or a sudden stroke of luck to absolve you of your duties, because a miracle will not fix a broken character. You do not need an external savior or an exceptional cosmic event. You need an unyielding sense of personal responsibility. You must accept that where you are right now is the cumulative result of your past choices, and where you will be tomorrow depends entirely on your willingness to bear the weight of discipline today. We live in a culture that treats self-confidence as if it were a mental setting. You can simply toggle on through positive affirmations, chanting slogans into the mirror, and telling yourself you are great, even when your internal reality knows it is a lie. This approach fails because your brain possesses an incredibly accurate, built-in detector. You cannot trick yourself into experiencing authentic confidence. Genuine self-confidence is not an emotional state that you manifest out of thin air. It is a downstream consequence of objective historical data, created through an accumulation of indisputable proof. How do you build real, unshakable confidence? You do it by making small, difficult promises to yourself in private, and then executing them with absolute precision. Every single time you tell yourself you are going to wake up early, and your feet hit the cold floor the exact moment the alarm rings, your brain logs an entry in its internal database, noting that you are a person who does what they say they are going to do. Every time you commit to working out, and you push through the final set despite your muscles burning, your brain records another piece of evidence. Conversely, every single time you break a promise to yourself, every time you say you will study but watch online videos instead, every time you say you will save money but blow it on impulse buys, you actively degrade your own self-trust. You provide your brain with empirical proof that your word means absolutely nothing. If you feel insecure, fragile, or filled with self-doubt, stop looking for motivational band-aids. Go back to the absolute basics. Make one hard promise to yourself today and keep it. Build the evidence and let your confidence be built on a bedrock of real, undeniable historical facts, not hollow mental hype. The public version of you is an illusion. Anyone can look put together when the lights are bright, when the camera is rolling, or when a boss, a teacher, or a partner is watching their every move. Accountability is easy when there is an immediate social penalty for slacking off, or when there is instant validation available for doing the bare minimum. But your true character, the raw material that actually dictates the quality of your long-term existence, is forged exclusively in the absolute darkness of your private moments. Character is defined by what you do when the world is fast asleep and nobody is around to judge, praise, or validate your efforts. It is the choice you make when your alarm sounds in a dark, freezing room and the temptation to crawl back under the covers is overwhelming. It is the decision to keep working on your side business or studying your course materials when your friends are out drinking and nobody would ever know if you took the night off. It is how you behave when the smartphone is in your hand, offering an endless buffet of cheap distractions, and you have to consciously choose to put it face down and face the silent discomfort of deep focus. These hyper-isolated, seemingly insignificant micro-choices are the true turning points of a human life, the moments where your old identity battles your desired identity. When you consistently choose the path of discipline in total anonymity, you are not just completing a task, you are casting a decisive vote for a completely different caliber of soul. You are teaching your subconscious mind that your internal standards are far higher than any external pressure could ever be. There is no off-season in the school of life, and you are never not in training. Whether you realize it or not, every single action, thought, response, and hesitation is shaping your behavioral pathways, actively training your mind and your body to operate in a specific way every waking second. If you spend your days allowing your mind to wander to the rhythm of algorithmic social feeds, you are not merely relaxing. You are actively training your brain to have an incredibly short attention span, making it structurally incapable of deep focus. If you quit a workout or a work session the exact moment you feel slightly bored or fatigued, you are training your nervous system to collapse under minimal stress. If you constantly cook up elaborate, poetic justifications for why you did not do what you committed to doing, you are training yourself to become a master of excuses. You must view every moment through this lens of continuous conditioning. If you want to become a disciplined, focused, and powerful individual, you cannot expect to magically display those traits only when it matters. You must practice them in the mundane, boring details of your day. Force yourself to pay attention, force yourself to finish what you started, and force yourself to execute tasks without internal debate. What you choose to repeat, you become a master of. If you continuously rehearse weakness, do not be surprised when you find yourself completely helpless when a real crisis arrives. If you want to know the absolute truth about who you are and where your life is heading, you must stop listening to your own words, dreams, and intentions. Intentions are cheap, comforting lies designed to keep your ego intact while your life rots. To discover the unvarnished reality of your existence, you must perform a cold, calculated audit of your actual data, looking at the objective evidence left behind by your lifestyle. Open up your smartphone and check your daily screen time metrics, looking at exactly how many hours have been swallowed by mindless consumption. Inspect your bank statement and see exactly where your hard-earned capital is flowing, whether it is building your future or buying temporary escape. Examine the cleanliness, order, and structure of your physical living space, because a chaotic room almost always reflects a chaotic mind. Look at the state of your physical health, the fuel you put into your body, and the balance of your accounts. Take a long, hard look at how you utilize the first golden hour after you wake up and the final 2 hours before you shut your eyes at night. Your current life is not an accident, a mystery, or a stroke of bad luck. It is the precise, flawless output of your daily inputs. Your reality is a real-time feedback loop generated by your actual behaviors. If you genuinely despise the current results of your life, you must stop attacking the mirror and start changing the data inputs. No amount of wishful thinking can override the cold mathematics of your daily schedule. If you do not like the feedback of your life, change what you repeat every single day. Motivation is the playground of amateurs. It is an unstable, fickle, and wildly unreliable emotional state that depends entirely on external factors. The weather, how well you slept, your hormone levels, or whether someone complimented you recently. Relying on motivation to build a meaningful life is like trying to run a massive industrial power grid off a single, unpredictable windmill. If you only work when you feel inspired, you will lose to the person who works regardless of their feelings every single time. Elite individuals do not operate on motivation. They operate on absolute standards. Motivation is fluid and seasonal, while standards are fixed, permanent structural pillars. A standard is an internal, non-negotiable law that defines the absolute baseline of your behavior. The line in the sand where you look at yourself and say that you will never allow yourself to drop below this level of performance again under any circumstances. When you operate on high internal standards, your emotional state becomes completely irrelevant to your output. It does not matter if you are exhausted. Your standard dictates that the work must be completed. It does not matter if the people around you have lost faith in your vision. Your standard dictates that you continue to build in silence. It does not matter if you experience a crushing, humiliating failure. Your standard dictates that you immediately analyze the data, adapt your strategy, and return to the arena. Strip away the need for emotional comfort, establish your baseline laws, and execute them with the cold, mechanical precision of an industrial machine. The modern world is deeply obsessed with the concept of rapid, performative success, bombarding us with highly curated highlight reels of entrepreneurs celebrating massive payouts, influencers living in luxury, and athletes holding trophies aloft under a storm of gold confetti. Because we only see the final, polished outcome, we develop a deeply warped perception of what achievement actually requires, falling in love with the applause while despising the suffocating silence of the preparation. The uncomfortable truth is that real success is built entirely on a mountain of invisible work. The majority of your journey will not be glamorous, exciting, or validated by your social circle. It will consist of deeply monotonous, repetitive, and unsexy days where you are working entirely alone in a quiet room, seeing zero immediate progress and receiving absolutely no recognition from the outside world. Many people fail, not because they lack raw genetic talent or a high IQ, but because their egos are too fragile to survive the prolonged absence of validation. They quit the moment the initial excitement wears off and they are left alone with the crushing reality of routine execution. If you want to construct a life that is truly exceptional, you must fall in love with the invisible work. You must find an intense, almost spiritual satisfaction in doing the heavy lifting when nobody is watching, nobody is clapping, and nobody cares. The results you display in the light are merely a reflection of what you practiced in the dark. We are a generation of talkers, planners, and chronic theoreticians, spending an immense amount of cognitive energy discussing our grand business ideas, curating our aesthetic mood boards, talking about our workout routines, and explaining our multi-year life strategies to anyone who will listen. We treat talking about our goals as a substitute for actually doing the work, because vocalizing our plans tricks our brains into releasing a cheap hit of dopamine without making us pay the physical price of execution. Stop talking. Stop broadcasting your intentions to a world that does not care, and stop trying to explain your vision, your ambitions, or your elaborate recovery plans to people who are not actively building anything of value in their own lives. Your words are noise, your actions are signal. There is an immense, magnetic power in absolute silence. When you choose to internalize your ambitions, you preserve that raw creative energy and force it to find an outlet through physical labor. Let your friends, your family, and your critics wonder what you are up to, letting them think you are quiet, distant, or uninspired. You do not need to announce your moves to the world. Let your execution speak for you, because a single, objective, undeniable real-world result will always speak infinitely louder than a lifetime of elegant promises. When you are first told that nobody is coming to save you and that everything is your responsibility, it can feel like an incredibly cruel, crushing psychological sentence. Your immediate emotional instinct is to recoil, to argue, and to list all the valid reasons why your life is complicated, why you were treated unfairly, and why you deserve to be taken care of by someone else, viewing responsibility as a heavy, unfair punishment inflicted upon you by a hostile world. But if you can shift your perspective slightly, you will realize that radical responsibility is actually the ultimate source of human sovereignty and power. Think about the logical alternative. If your current unhappiness, your financial lack, your bad health, and your mental chaos are completely the fault of external factors, then you are completely helpless. If external forces caused your ruin, then you must wait for them to change or rescue you before your life can improve, handing the remote control of your destiny to entities that do not care about your well-being. The moment you state that where you are right now is entirely your responsibility, everything changes. You take the keys to the kingdom back into your own hands. It does not matter if someone else broke your heart, ruined your business, or raised you poorly. Their actions belong to the past, while your response belongs entirely to the present. By accepting absolute ownership of your current state, you gain the absolute power to systematically dismantle it and rebuild it from scratch. Responsibility is not a heavy chain. It is the ultimate declaration of personal freedom. Waiting is not an innocent, harmless state of rest. It is a highly sophisticated defense mechanism designed by your ego to keep you safe from the discomfort of reality. When you are in a state of waiting, you enter a comfortable mental sandbox where you can imagine yourself accomplishing incredible feats, earning financial abundance, and achieving a perfect physique, all without ever having to risk the painful, messy, and humiliating experience of real-world failure. But you must understand that there is a sharp, tragic turning point in a human life where waiting stops being about preparation and transforms into a deep, systemic betrayal of your potential. You tell yourself you are just gathering information, reading one more book, saving up a little more money, or waiting for the season to change, when in reality, you are simply hiding behind the concept of timing. The perfect conditions you are looking for do not exist on this earth. The stars will never perfectly align. The traffic lights of life will never all turn green at the exact same moment, and your fears will never completely vanish. Every day you spend waiting for the ideal moment is a day you actively choose to live as a lesser version of who you are meant to be. Break the trance, shatter the illusion of safety, step out of the fantasy sandbox, and throw yourself into the cold, chaotic, and beautiful reality of immediate action. Let us strip away another layer of intellectual dishonesty, your self-proclaimed confusion. You love to tell yourself, and anyone who will listen, that you are lost, confused, or searching for your passion, wandering from one self-help framework to another, consuming endless amounts of information, claiming that you just haven't found the right strategy, the right routine, or the right roadmap yet. You treat your confusion as if it were a complex, tragic existential condition that requires deep, prolonged analysis. It is time to stop lying to yourself. You are not confused. You know exactly what you need to do right now to improve your current reality. You do not need a complex 10-year master plan to take your first step. You know, with absolute certainty, that you need to put your smartphone face down in another room. You know you need to wake up the moment your alarm rings instead of wasting time scrolling in bed. You know you need to clean your messy room, study that difficult skill, stop eating processed garbage, and distance yourself from the toxic acquaintances who are actively draining your energy. The problem is not a lack of clarity. The problem is an intense aversion to discomfort. You pretend to be confused because clarity demands immediate execution, and execution requires pain. Hiding in a fog of fake confusion allows you to justify your laziness. Wipe away the self-induced fog. Accept the simple, unglamorous tasks that are staring you directly in the face, and do them without another second of overthinking. We have successfully created an environment where absolute comfort is accessible at the touch of a button, allowing us to have high-calorie food delivered to our door in minutes, access infinite entertainment on demand, and live our entire lives within climate-controlled, frictionless spaces. But this artificial environment has created an existential crisis. The velvet prison of comfort. When you allow yourself to be completely insulated from discomfort, you are not finding peace. You are undergoing a slow process of domestication. In a life devoid of physical strain, mental friction, and voluntary hardship, your mind and character naturally begin to atrophy. Your attention span shrinks. Your emotional resilience shatters. Your threshold for tolerating stress drops to near zero. And your grand life ambitions are slowly replaced by a desire for the next cheap dopamine hit. Comfort is a seductive, silent assassin that does not scream at you, but whispers, encouraging you to relax, take it easy, and stay inside the lines. If you continue to prioritize immediate physical and emotional comfort over growth, a day will come where you realize that your comfort zone has become a reinforced concrete tomb that completely traps your potential. You must consciously wage war against your own convenience, seeking out the difficult and the uncomfortable, because those are the only elements where your true strength can be forged. One of the most dangerous fallacies of the human mind is the belief that action must always follow an internal shift. We think we must first stop feeling afraid before we can be brave, that we must stop feeling tired before we can work hard, or that we must possess absolute intellectual certainty before we can launch an enterprise or make a radical life change. This is a complete inversion of how human psychology actually operates. Internal clarity, confidence, and courage are not the prerequisites for action. They are the downstream side effects of action. If you wait until your fears completely evaporate before you take your first real step, you will remain frozen for the rest of your days. The world does not reward those who wait for psychological perfection. It rewards those who are willing to move while they are still terrified, exhausted, and uncertain. Do not wait for the perfect wave. Paddle directly into the storm. Action has a compounding ability to alter your internal chemistry. The moment your hands start moving, the moment you begin to physically execute a task, the dark fog of anxiety and overthinking naturally begins to dissipate. Stop analyzing the water from the shore, dive into the chaos, and allow the momentum of your movement to forge the clarity you seek. When people finally experience an epiphany and realize that their lives are in ruins, they almost always fall into the trap of the overnight overhaul. Driven by an intense surge of temporary guilt, they sit down late at night and construct an insanely ambitious, unrealistic lifestyle plan. They vow that starting tomorrow morning, they will wake up incredibly early, lift heavy weights, read an entire book, build a brand new business from scratch, and cut out every single form of distraction simultaneously. Predictably, this strategy fails nearly every single time because your brain is an organic system that deeply resists sudden, violent shifts in equilibrium. When you try to force an immediate, total transformation of your entire existence, your nervous system interprets it as a massive crisis and triggers an overwhelming wave of resistance, fatigue, and self-sabotage. Within 48 to 72 hours, the initial emotional high vanishes, you collapse back into your old destructive habits, and you are left feeling even more helpless and defeated than before. Stop trying to conquer the entire mountain in a single, chaotic sprint. True, unshakable discipline is built through the strategy of calculated micro-promises. Do not try to rewrite your entire day. Instead, pick one single, isolated, manageable task, commit to it, and execute it with absolute perfection every day. Wake up at the exact same time without exception. Spend a set block of time studying a technical skill, or complete a simple physical routine before your day begins. Master the micro-habit before you attempt to build the macro-empire. The ultimate tragedy of a disorganized, undisciplined life is not a lack of material success. Those are merely external symptoms of a deeper rot. The true catastrophe is the quiet, internal erosion of your self-esteem. When you spend months and years making promises to yourself that you consistently break, you develop a deep, subconscious self-loathing. You walk through life with an underlying sense of shame, knowing that you are fundamentally untrustworthy and that your own word means absolutely nothing to you. You must realize that every single time you keep a small, difficult promise to yourself, you are not just completing a chore. You are performing an act of profound psychological restoration, laying a fresh stone in the foundation of your self-respect. When you force yourself to execute a task despite your mind screaming for comfort, you send a powerful shockwave through your subconscious, confirming that you are no longer a slave to your whims, but the ruler of your mind. As this internal trust is systematically rebuilt over weeks of consistent execution, your entire perspective changes. You stop walking through the world with a defensive, anxious posture, acquiring an authentic, quiet serenity that can only come from a person who knows they can rely on themselves when the chips are down. One of the most profound mistakes amateurs make is relying entirely on raw willpower to maintain their discipline. They believe that if they are truly strong, they should be able to sit at a desk with their smartphone buzzing next to them, multiple tabs of entertainment open on their browser, and still manage to execute hours of deep, complex cognitive work. This is a complete misunderstanding of human biology. Willpower is a finite, biologically expensive neurological resource, and every time you are forced to consciously resist a temptation, your brain expends a measurable amount of energy. If you spend your entire day fighting against a chaotic, toxic environment, your willpower will eventually run completely dry, and you will inevitably give in to self-sabotage. Stop trying to be a hero of willpower. Instead, become an architect of your environment. Systematically engineer your physical and digital surroundings so that discipline becomes the path of least resistance and laziness becomes structurally difficult. If your smartphone is a black hole of distraction, purchase a timed lockbox or place the phone in another room entirely. If you find yourself wasting hours watching television, dismantle the setup or store the remote control in a distant corner. If your workspace is cluttered and chaotic, strip it down until there is nothing left but your essential tools and a glass of water. Do not rely on fleeting emotional strength. Build structural systems that protect your focus from your own worst impulses. The modern world has completely inverted the true definition of freedom, telling us through cultural narratives that freedom means the complete absence of restraint. We are led to believe that a free person is someone who can do whatever they want, whenever they want, indulging every passing emotional whim, dietary craving, and desire for consumption without limitation. In reality, this performative version of freedom is a degrading form of slavery. If you do not possess control over your own mind, you are not a free individual. You are a biological puppet controlled by evolutionary instincts and corporate algorithms. If an app on your phone can make you abandon your deep life goals with a single notification, you are a captive. If a craving for comfort can make you break a solemn promise to yourself, you are a servant. Discipline is not a restrictive straitjacket designed to take the joy out of life. Discipline is the ultimate form of self-preservation and liberation. It is the protective shield that insulates you from the chaos of the external world and the self-destructive tendencies of your own ego. When you master your impulses, you acquire true sovereignty. You are no longer a leaf blown about by the winds of emotion. You become the storm itself. When you embark on the path of radical responsibility and daily discipline, it is incredibly easy to fall prey to the toxic allure of perfectionism. You develop an all-or-nothing mindset, believing that if your day is not completely flawless, if you miss a single workout, break your focus for 15 minutes, or slip up on your diet, the entire endeavor is ruined, and you might as well throw away all your progress and indulge in a massive wave of self-sabotage. You must violently reject this cognitive pattern, for perfectionism is merely a sophisticated form of cowardice, an excuse to quit the moment things become messy, real, and unpredictable. The individuals who ultimately transform their destinies are not those who live immaculate, flawless lives. They are those who possess an exceptional ability to execute persistent imperfection. They understand that a single step forward, no matter how small, clumsy, or labored, is infinitely superior to a brilliant plan that remains unexecuted. If you only have the energy to read 2 pages of a textbook tonight, read those 2 pages with absolute intensity. If you can only manage a truncated 15-minute workout, execute it with every ounce of strength you have. If you stumble and break a promise, do not sit in the mud weeping. Stand up immediately, brush off the dust, and resume the march. Victory is not defined by never falling. It is defined by an absolute refusal to stay down. Let us demystify the inevitable. You will have bad days. There will be mornings where you wake up with a crushing sense of mental fatigue, days where your calendar is completely disrupted by external emergencies, and moments where your willpower utterly collapses, leaving you staring at a trail of broken promises and wasted hours. When these moments occur, the default psychological response is to plunge into a dark spiral of guilt and existential despair. You must learn to view a bad day not as a definitive defeat, but as a standard, predictable cost of doing business on this earth. A single bad day cannot destroy months of consistent, disciplined labor, just as a single workout cannot transform a soft physique into an athletic masterpiece. The real danger is never the initial slip-up. It is the emotional tailspin that follows it. True defeat does not occur when you stumble. It occurs when you allow a single bad day to bleed into a bad week, a bad month, and a bad year. When you experience a failure of discipline, treat it with the cold objectivity of an engineer managing a machine defect. Do not waste emotional energy feeling sorry for yourself. Accept the data, reset your system immediately, and ensure that your very next choice is aligned with your highest standards. Your strength is measured by how quickly you can recover your momentum after an unexpected crisis. The human mind is a chronic time traveler, spending an immense, exhausting amount of its cognitive capacity hovering in the phantom realities of the past and the future. We look backward, drowning in a sea of bitter regret, replaying our past failures, mourning our missed opportunities, and resenting the people who let us down. Or we look forward, projecting our anxieties into an unpredictable future, or indulging in empty, comfortable daydreams about a magnificent life that we will magically inherit one day. You must violently drag your consciousness back to the brutal reality of the current microsecond. The past is a graveyard that contains nothing but static data, and the future is a hall of mirrors that does not exist yet. The present moment is the only territory where you possess any actual power. The legendary version of you that you want to build cannot be constructed in a grand sprint next year. It is being systematically engineered right now, in this exact hour, by the choice you make after you finish reading this text. It is built in how you handle your next meal, your next work block, your next temptation, and your next promise. Stop thinking about the grand trajectory of your life. Narrow your vision down to the immediate task in front of you and execute it with absolute intensity. The present is your only foundry. Light the fire and strike the iron. We have reached the ultimate crucible of our interaction. You have consumed an immense amount of high intensity, unvarnished truth, and your brain is likely buzzing with a temporary surge of intellectual clarity, focus, and emotional resonance. It feels good to read these words, and it feels empowering to contemplate a life of absolute self-reliance, high standards, and unbreakable discipline. But right here lies the ultimate trap. If you simply close this screen, sigh with satisfaction, and immediately return to your old patterns of mindless scrolling, cheap consumption, and chronic procrastination, you have turned this text into nothing more than intellectual escape. You have used these words to get a cheap hit of inspiration without paying the real-world price of execution. I do not want your admiration, and I do not care about your temporary inspiration. I want you to take immediate action. The moment you finish reading, I want you to close this screen and execute one cold, physical, undeniable task in your immediate environment. Do not plan it, do not overthink it, and do not debate it. Stand up right now, clean your chaotic workspace until it is pristine. Drop to the floor and push your muscles to failure. Delete the distracting apps from your smartphone, or open that complex textbook and force your mind through a dedicated block of deep, uninterrupted study. Do something real. Send a definitive shockwave through your nervous system that announces to your subconscious mind that the era of waiting is officially over and that you are now in control. Let us project your vision slightly forward onto a very real, rapidly approaching horizon. 6 months from this exact date. 6 months is a beautiful block of time. It is short enough to maintain an intense sense of daily urgency, yet long enough to completely overwrite the structural reality of your health, your intellect, your finances, and your character. Take a moment to paint an explicit, detailed mental picture of the 2 distinct futures that are waiting for you at that horizon. In the first future, you choose the path of least resistance. You continue to wait for motivation, to hide behind fake confusion, to prioritize immediate comfort, and to break your promises when nobody is watching. When those 6 months evaporate, you will wake up with the exact same soft body, the same chaotic environment, the same financial stress, and the same underlying sense of self-loathing. The only thing you will have to show for those 180 days is a mountain of elaborate explanations for why you did not start. In the second future, you accept total ownership. You embrace the silence of the invisible work. You execute your standards regardless of your emotional state, and you build evidence of your worth every single day. When you reach that 6-month horizon, you will look in the mirror and face an entirely different tier of human being. You will possess an athletic, resilient body, a razor-sharp mind, an orderly environment, a healthier bank account, and an unshakable sense of internal peace. Those 6 months are going to pass regardless of what you choose to do. Time will march forward with absolute indifference. When that horizon arrives, what will you be holding in your hands? Will you have a collection of pathetic excuses? Or will you have a bedrock of indisputable, real-world proof? We return to the foundational axiom where our journey began, the absolute truth that must govern every single breath you take for the rest of your existence. Nobody is coming to save you. Read that sentence again, but do not allow it to fill your heart with cold dread or paralyzing despair. Let it act as a massive neurological alarm clock that permanently shatters your delusions of safety. Let it burn away your self-pity, your laziness, and your reliance on external validation. The realization that you are completely on your own is not a tragedy. It is the most magnificent, liberating milestone a human being can ever reach. It means the remote control of your destiny is entirely in your own hands. The story of your life is not being written by your past, your environment, or your critics. It is being carved into the stone of reality by your next choice. The exact moment you permanently cease your weeping, stop staring at the horizon for a savior, and accept the absolute weight of personal responsibility, is the exact moment you transition from a helpless captive into a sovereign ruler. You do not need a miracle. Look down at your feet, look at your hands, and look at the fire burning in your own chest. The search is over. You are the savior you have been waiting for. Stand up, embrace the dark, and rescue yourself.